Hi, folks. Welcome to the preparedhomestead.com. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Just left the fire station for the day. Been there most of the day doing some planning and working and talking and, all that kind of stuff. Things are moving along pretty quick there. If you're still interested in helping us out, no obligation. But if you want to, there's going to be a link for a while down below for you to, if you want to chip in a few dollars to what we're doing, you're more than welcome to. If you haven't heard, we've taken an old fire station that hadn't been used in several years and we're restoring it. And then we have put together a team that can do medical response, search and rescue stuff, disaster response. And so we're teaming up with the local fire department because the local fire department is so rural and small. They're good guys. They really are. But, they struggle with not having the funds and the manpower to do what really needs to be done in this area. So we're helping them out in that way. So we've partnered up with them. But anyways, haven't really had enough time to look at much of the news, but there seems to be a lot of buzz going on. I guess Joe Biden is going to make an announcement tonight, potential increased involvement in airstrikes and bombing and war and who knows what else in the Middle East. I suspect it's probably going to be a lot less than what the media hype is on it, but who knows? Maybe could be going full scale on it. Probably will be some strikes in Syria or something, or maybe Iraq to retaliate, but there's people speculating that it could go as far as attacking Iran, which could definitely escalate things a lot if that happens. Economy stuff, there's a lot of stuff, buzz, the Texas and the Middle East thing right now is dominating the news cycle. But there's other stuff. Evergrande, the big... one of the largest real estate firms in the world out of China basically went under for the most part. They've been ordered to liquidate and sell. UBS Bank, one of the big banks, said that this is going to be a really bad year for stock market. And JP Morgan Chase, the CEO, said just a few days ago that the U.S. economy is on the verge of falling off a cliff. That's like collapsing, right? Because of the crazy amount of debt. And I believe it was the Wall Street Journal or something like that said that it's going to feel like a recession this year, even though we aren't technically in a recession, even though it's felt like a recession / depression for years now. So all that talk tells me that economically we're probably in for a real rough spell. I mean, we're going into debt $1 trillion a quarter. $1 trillion a quarter now. And it's actually picking up speed. So, this next quarter, it could easily be over $1 trillion at the rate that things are being spent now. Elon Musk's Neuralink, if you haven't been keeping up with that, that's where he's come up with this brain chip. You implant a brain, this computer chip in your brain, so that you can control artificial intelligence and computers. It's done its first human trial. There's the first human ever to have it implanted in, and apparently it's going really great, according to Elon Musk. So we're just getting closer and closer to the big, beast system, Big Brother controlling your thoughts and everything else. It's so science fiction. It seems like it's not real, but in fact it is real. When you look at all of the other technologies that they're forcing on everyone, digital currencies and digital IDs and everything else, and then you add all in the ESG and the DEI, it doesn't look like a very pleasant future, at least certainly not one that's filled with freedom. So it's kind of bleak in some ways, right? When you look at all this news, when you look at all the things happening, and then of course, like I said, the whole Texas thing. I mean, it at least on the surface, it appears like we're on the brink of a civil war. And even if that happens, it certainly looks like we're on the brink of another January 6th kind of deal, where who knows what they're going to do to all of the Americans that are traveling down there to potentially stand their ground against illegals and against the federal government. It looks bad. I said this morning, it's like just we're in a constant state of crisis. Everything's a crisis right now. Does that mean that we should get down and depressed and give up? Does that mean that, all hope is lost? Well, all hope may be lost in certain things, maybe all hope is lost in that America will ever rise once again to be a great nation. That's possible that it's done for. Um, but I'm here to tell you that we don't need the government, okay? I mean, I'm not one of these, all out anarchists, but we don't need the government. We don't need the government, at least in this sense of taking care of ourselves. There are still good people and there's still great things being done on a small level. And I've been trying to get this message across to people is while we certainly want to at least keep up on what's going on so that we know how bad things are getting out in the world, I believe that our efforts should be just becoming more and more localized, bringing that circle in tighter and tighter, kind of circling the wagons. I think that's where we need to be putting our efforts in right now. Not just in ourself, our family, our homestead, but in our communities also, of bolstering them as much as we can. Whether it's a community of your prepper community, your homestead community, your little mag, your tribe, and then just the people around you. Because in the end, that's all that's really going to matter, aside from your faith in Father and Yeshua, his son. What really is going to matter is just the people around you. They're the ones that's going to help each other, and they're the ones that could hurt each other. And so putting our efforts into what's going on around us, it really, I think, is the best thing that we can do. I know I'm going to get some flack for this. I have for the last few days. I'm not opposed to people going and trying to defend the border. I still think it's a setup. I still think that it's a trap, but I'm not opposed to that at all. But we also have to realize that the fight isn't necessarily just at the border. The fight is everywhere. The millions of illegals that's poured across this country's borders in the last few years, they're not all sitting at the border. They're not even all in Texas. I mean, there's a lot, but they're not all in Texas. They're all over the country. And you have to remember that if something did kind of pop off because of the Texas border thing, or if something popped off because of an increased war in the Middle East or somewhere else, and you had bad actors here in the United States doing things, it's going to be everywhere, not just down at the border. It could be in your own backyard. If you're down at the border doing things down there, who's taking care of your family here at home? And if things popped off because of that, there's bad actors all over the place. There's illegals, there's sleeper cells, there's all kinds of stuff. It's everywhere. And so we've got to put enough energy and effort into doing things around ourselves, around us, our community, our neighbors, our family, our friends. That's where the effort needs to be put. And we need to be circling those wagons. We need to be, bringing that circle in tighter and tighter, and finding good people that we can rely on and that we can develop trust and relationships with, that we can survive together through whatever happens, regardless of how bad it is, regardless of how short or long, lived everything happens. That's where we need to put our effort. And there are still good communities out there. There's lots of good communities out there. There's rural areas all over the country that are filled with just good, red-blooded, decent, Bible-believing, conservative, patriotic Americans. And in places like that, you're going to be much more likely to find like-minded, kindred souls where you can kind of work together and you can kind of build something and help each other out and rely on each other now and when things fall apart. And so while it's definitely sad, it's definitely depressing to see the stuff that's going on. It's a little scary even when we see the things that are happening, and we know we're just this close. We're just this close from things really just falling apart. And the only thing most of us are doing right now is just waiting for that final, shoe to drop, but waiting for that straw, that final straw to break that camel's back. We know it's coming, and we kind of feel it could be pretty soon. And so that's what most of us are doing right now. But it doesn't mean that's the only thing that we should be doing. We should be strengthening the areas around us. reevaluating your own preparations, your stuff, your plans, your skills, your homestead. Is it sustainable? Can you exist on your little homestead as if it was an island unto itself? And if you can't, then do you have the relationships built with people around you where you can barter and trade and help each other to do that? Do you have relationships built in organizations, community groups, whatever it is, in your area that you can work with, and if not, create them to where you have more people around that are willing to say no? The rest of the world may fall apart, the country may fall apart, the state may fall apart, but this area is not going to fall apart. We're going to keep it together. We're going to keep the bad people out, and we're going to pull together, take care of each other, create food together, barter, trade, all this kind of stuff. Create these alternative systems that I've talked about for years. It's not a radical idea. It's actually the way America and most of the rest of the world has been for forever. It's only in recent times, very recent times, the last 2, maybe 3 generations, have we accepted this idea that everything should be a top-down stuff, and it shouldn't be. That everything should be centrally controlled by the government, the schools, the medical systems, the communication systems, the supply chain, everything. Everything's got to be top down. That's putting far too many eggs in one basket. We've got to go back to the old ways, to where little communities were pretty much independent. They were self-sufficient. If something happened on one side of the state or one side of the country that was catastrophic, it may not have directly affected you where you're at, because you kind of could stand on your own. That's the way things used to be in this country. That's the way things used to be around the world, and still are in some places. And we need to be going back to that and revitalizing that. And while there's going to be pushback, there's going to be people that don't care, there's going to be people that have no interest in this whatsoever, there are still good people out there. And I believe that if you look hard and you look in the right places, and maybe you don't live in the right areas of the country, maybe it's not rural enough, maybe it's not conservative or traditional enough, but there are many places out there that are. And you can find people that will pull together, and they already do. And they're more than likely willing to be part of something that's planning for that, because they're aware also of what's going on. They see the handwriting on the wall. So that's what we've got to be doing. We need to be circling those wagons, folks. Seriously, because it's not looking good. Regardless of whether it starts in Texas or Iran or Ukraine or Israel or North Korea, Taiwan, or whatever, it's becoming more and more apparent that it is starting sometime soon, and it could be pretty catastrophic. And you know how it is. Once the first thing falls, it could be a cascading effect, and it could just be a lot of stuff happening. We need to get our houses in order. Take it serious. Find the right place to live where you can find like-minded people, and reach out to them and build relationships with them. Doesn't mean you have to trust them completely or they trust you completely, but at least have working relationships with them and talk about things of what to do if things got really bad. What if it was an ice storm or a tornado or a banking collapse or something like that? What would we do then? How would we pull together? Because that's how things have always been in this country, and we need to get back to that. Folks, it's time to get your houses in order and prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.